You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Hey there, all of you. We know you're cool, but are you cool enough to be one of the red shirts? I bet you are. We'll find out tonight. It's 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. It's Monday night, and that can only mean it's time for Mission Log Live. I'm John Champion.
And I'm Ashley B. Robinson. Tonight, it's time to meet Rumdar, the master spy of the Packlids. We are covering Lower Decks, A Spy Humongous, and we want to hear from you. So click on the Zoom meeting link or use the one tap from your smartphone and call us at 669-900-6833. You'll be connected to the beautiful and lovely and talented Earl, and he will connect you to us, and we'll all learn how to be captain material together.
Hey, look, you have no learning to do. You're already Captain Janeway, if I may call you that.
I mean, we do have a similar hairstyle, so yes, you may call me Captain Janeway.
In fact, somebody in the chat already said, like, welcome to all the Captain Janeways.
Yes,
You know?
Oh my God.
So that's pretty good. That was from Alan. How are you doing tonight, Victoria? Ashley, Victoria, Robinson, okay. Janeway, Captain.
All the names. I am doing so well. I'm already sweating. We are in for a good night. How are you, John?
I'm doing okay. I was already intrigued by the title of this episode, A Spy Humongous, which, clever little play on words there. It's fun because he is humongous and he is among us. So, I'm very excited to talk about all the little in-jokes and all the fun and subterfuge of this episode with our callers. So you all know what to do. You pick up the phone, you click on the thing, you do the thing, you talk to Earl, you talk to us. That's the way Mission Log works. The other way Mission Log Live works is that we welcome all of you. Now, right off the bat, glad to see Paul Wright drop in and say, I got an early morning. I got to skip out. I'll listen to the podcast tomorrow. Paul, we are down one Paul, sorry to say, but maybe another Paul will come in and take up the slack.
Pick up the mantle.
yes. We'll pick up that mantle. Of course, if you're a Pack-led, we just call everybody Paul. Maybe just everybody who calls in tonight.
I am not qualified to be a Paul. My hat is not big enough.
Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to talk about hats, too. There's Chris mentioning Ensign Fish Cat. Yes, there is a fish cat in tonight's episode. A Gesundheit. There is Phil. There is Brian. There is Dom. There is who else? Oh, Scott Palm. How you doing, my friend? Scott. There is Mike. There is Dennis. Alan with the welcome, Captain Janeways. So glad to see you all. Oh, there's Tom, and actually he was the one with whom I was having the chat about Planet of Hats. So maybe Tom will call in and explain that to us, because to me, fascinating, completely fascinating. Paul says John is a red shirt. Well, I guess it depends on how you define red shirt. Chris says John, exclamation point. Ashley, exclamation point. Earl, exclamation point. Thank you to all of you. There's Carlos, there's John Cooley, and Julie, and everybody saying hello. So glad to see you all there in the Facebook chat. Please do call in and say hello to us. You know how to do that. We love hearing from you. We love talking to you about Star Trek, and particularly right now, Lower Decks. Now, if you are paying attention to the rest of what we do on Mission Log, and I certainly hope you are, next week on Mission Log Live, you'll be back with Norman. Ashley, you and the indelible Norman Lau will be talking about Lower Decks Season 2, Episode 7, Where Pleasant Fountains Lie. What an interesting title. I can't wait.
The swimming lesson episode, the canonical swimming lesson episode.
Yeah. Well, you always have to have one. So this is it for Lower Decks. This week on Mission Log, we'll be releasing the DS9 coverage of the siege of AR-558, the one where war is hell again. So check that out. And then we will be definitely doing a Patreon Mission Log After Dark discussion with our Discord crew. And that'll be Thursday afternoon, time TB. It's usually about 4 o'clock Pacific, exclusive to our Patreon followers, where we get to have a live discussion about that week's Mission Log. And it was a heavy episode, so I imagine the conversation will be heavy. Or it could be like every other After Dark, where we acknowledge that that's the episode, and then we talk about anything but the episode. And sometimes that happens. But I did mention Patreon, and we'll mention it again a little bit later in the show, because if you go over there, if you join us, you get early access to the unedited recordings for Deep Space Nine. This week for Covenant specifically, but you get those every Wednesday morning, just about every Wednesday morning. So you get to be a week ahead, and you get to hear me and Norman just banter, just hang out and chat for a little while, which is always fun. Maybe. Kind of.
Yes, it's fun.
Okay.
Yes, science
all right.
fact.
Captain Janeway says it's fun, so I guess it's fun. Hey, Matthew Corey saying hello to Mission Loggers. Good to see you here, Matthew. And let's see here. Carlos says, I have the biggest helmet because I have the biggest head. Okay, all right, call in, prove it. If you don't mind, Ashley, I will get to the recap, so then we can get to our callers and get to our conversation about tonight's episode.
Please do, in fact.
Well, thank you. Here we go. Tonight's episode of Lower Decks, Season 2, Episode 6, A Spy Humongous. While Starfleet continues its skirmishes with the Pakleds, Captain Freeman has been sent to the Pakled homeworld to negotiate a ceasefire. When she and Lieutenant Shax beam down to Pakled planet, they're greeted by someone of a smaller helmet who needs to fetch someone in a higher rank in a larger helmet to negotiate. But before they can proceed with Captain Janeway, as they call her, one of their own announces that the prisoner Rumdar has escaped to the Cerritos. Janeway and Shax will be held prisoner until they get Rumdar back. On the Cerritos, Tendi, Rutherford, Mariner, and Boimler are assigned to anomaly consolidation duty, which is basically trash cleanup of all the weird, dangerous stuff that has been collected from the ship's missions. Everybody is super into it, except Mariner. Boimler slips when getting up from the table and spills his breakfast all over his head, causing Tendi to laugh. Remember that. And Boimler is spotted by a table of the cool kids. An Andorian, a Kazin, a couple of humans like Ensign Casey, who says they call themselves the Red Shirts, and they all help each other excel, get a leg up so they can in the captain's chair someday. They'll help Boimler, since he was on the Titan, and he must have some skills. That escaped Pakled, Rumdar, is looking for asylum on the Cerritos, except he's not. He reveals himself pretty easily to Ransom and Kayshon to be a spy, and the two crewmen will keep him occupied and distracted until Captain Freeman's orders to see if they can get any info from him about the continued Pakled attacks. But as soon as Ransom and Kayshon turn their backs, Rumdar disappears, which puts Captain Freeman in a difficult position as the next Pakled leader demands to speak with the prisoner. Freeman stalls, asking to talk about the ceasefire, only to find out that this Pakled's helmet still isn't big enough to negotiate. Back to Boimler. He's getting the help of the Red Shirts to really look and act like command material. He gets a makeover and a little dry run in the theater on how to make an inspiring speech. He's encouraged on by the Red Shirts to take command in all aspects of his life, and that may even mean hanging out with a crowd more suited to make him look good, not just his friends who do something as demeaning as anomaly collecting. Down on Pakled planet, things are getting really out of hand when Freeman finally has her meeting with the Pakled king, who is outranked by the Pakled emperor, who are both usurped in a bloody revolution, and one of those revolutionaries takes the big helmet for himself. Things on the Cerritos are getting nearly as chaotic. A day of anomaly collection has led Mariner, Rutherford, and Tendi to all kinds of humiliating encounters, gases that make a body blow up, nanobots, entombing gels being swallowed and excreted by a giant slug. Tendi is taking it all in stride until she grabs an alien cube that brings out her very worst side. Suddenly, she's combative, lashing out at her crewmates and transforming her into a giant green scorpion, then terrorizing the ship. When the Red Shirts spot her in the mess hall, they do what they do, give rousing speeches. But that's no good. Boimler actually goes into action, realizing that Tendi grabbed an Ataxian mood shifter. Instead of speechifying, he goes into action, making the replicator spit out food after food so he can spill it on himself and take falls, all to Tendi's delight, just like he did at the top of the episode. Remember? It works. Tendi laughs and reverts to her normal self. Also wrapping up the chaos on the Cerritos, Ransom and Kayshawn spot Rumdar floating outside the ship. He mistook an airlock for a bathroom, made a mess, and then flushed himself out. Somehow he survived, and Dr. Tana revived him. The jig is up when Rumdar asks for codes to the ship, and his time on the Cerritos comes to an end. Not a moment too soon. He's beamed down to Pakled Planet, where Freeman and Shax are being held at spear point, and the new Emperor reveals that Rumdar was a spy all along. Shocking! Freeman plays into the game and says he's such a good spy, she only wishes she knew what he knows to prove how good he is. So, of course, Rumdar spills the whole thing about how she never found out that the Pakleds are trying to smuggle a Veruvian bomb to Earth. Done and done, to beam up. Boimler gets an earful from Ensign Casey about how his actions in the mess hall were shameful, humiliating himself to save Tendi. But Boimler was right. And the other red shirts see it, distancing themselves from Casey. When Ransom comes through and an eager Casey asks if he can fill the acting captain position, and barely paying attention, Ransom says, yeah, whatever, but he does stop to praise Boimler for his quick thinking. Later that night, as a bridge crew clears, Casey is all ready to take the con. It's all of about 2 seconds during a shift swap until Lieutenant Shax can kick him out of the big chair. And while he's at it, Casey gets ordered to clean out Airlock 17, where that Pakled did something unspeakable. Back in the lower decks, reflecting on the day, Mariner pulls out one of those anomalies that was kind of cool, a casting stone that will let them broadcast their voices to any planet, which they use to torment Armus. The end. So much happening in this episode.
Oh, this is high chaos, this episode.
It is. Before we have so many great callers lined up. Before we get to those callers, I just want to ask you, like, your quick impressions, like, out of our now 16 episodes of Lower Decks. How did you feel about this one? Ranks high for you, ranks low for you? I'm seeing some interesting takes on this in the chat.
I would say that this ranks around the middle. I think this is a really fun episode, and there's a lot of really cute devices that we get executed here, but I don't feel like the emotionality is as strong as some of the other episodes that we saw, particularly last week's episode. I thought was like really strong, and it starts out so silly and it ends so strong. And what's wonderful about Lower Decks is there can be room for both such types of episodes. Like, it's not that there's no emotional growth here. It just didn't hit me in the same way that I was hit with it last week, which was interesting because the chat last week was also very divisive about the quality of that episode as well. Right. But I will say I was a little sad to see that even Tendi's spirit could be crushed, because she has this indomitable positivity that I long for in my own life, and to see her get mad, I was like, oh no, her, because all characters have superpowers for when you're writing them, and her superpower, she's like super happy and super upbeat and super positive. And look, manual labor is tough. There's a reason that I am a podcaster and a talking head. I don't want to lift things, particularly trash.
Hey, you and me both. These delicate hands barely seen a day's hard work. That's the way it goes. Look, this is all very interesting that you're saying, because I think I feel about the same way. I think it was a good episode. I don't think it was the greatest episode. I don't think it was the worst episode. And I wondered, as I was putting together the recap, which ran longer than I wanted it to, the fact that we have 3 plot lines going. You have Pakled Planet, you have Boimler's ascension, and then you've got the anomaly collecting. Was it too much? Could they have maybe sacrificed a couple of scenes and focused a little more on one or the other?
Maybe it's tough. It's tough when you're not in the room, right? Because Pakled Planet's also arguably 2 plots, because you have the stuff that's happening on the planet, and then you have Rumdar running around the ship, right? When we check in with Ransom every, I don't know, I think he's got 3 scenes in the episode?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, like the D plot.
Yeah, right. Which is always impressive that you can get that much story out with so little dialogue and such short scenes. That is one of the strengths of Lower Decks. But then I wonder if you have, literally, as you just pointed out, an A, B, C, and D plot, is it a little too much? Or do they look at it and go, you know what, we can only spend so much time on the Pakled Planet? you know?
Yeah, very that, because I don't know if I could have allotted more time, I definitely wouldn't have given it to Captain Freeman and Shax, unfortunately. I'm sad to say. I don't know if I needed to see more of, I have a bigger hat than you have. Ka-thunk,
Right.
ka-thunk, ka-thunk.
Right. I do think, though, and I apologize, we're going to get to our callers here in just a second. One note that I took to myself that I just want to get out before we move on here is something that was great about the Pac-led planet and getting so much in with such little screen time is I love how they boiled down making the Pac-leds represent the shortest possible distance between revolution and the inevitable authoritarian takeover. Like I picture this as something happening weekly on Pac-led Planet, you know? And it's just like you can take hundreds of years of human history and point to places it happens, but here it's just like, yeah, it's just, that's just the way it happens because, look, they're dumb because we're dumb and they're a reflection of us and we will do that.
And seeing it condensed like that, really, it feels very stark, particularly given, I think, the upheaval of the last year or so. Right.
Well, hey, without further ado, let's go to our first caller. Calling all the way from Starbase, it is Chris. Welcome, Chris. How you doing tonight?
Hey, man. Hey. Doing good. I think I'm with you guys in that, like, yeah, it's a good episode, sort of ranks around the middle. Why it falls sort of shorter, I was fine with the ABCD plot. I didn't honestly really notice that much. My thing was this felt kind of like a character backslide. Like, we spent all this time with Mariner sort of, she's kind of opening up, she's kind of making amends, she goes on the girl trip with Tendi, she goes partying with Boimler last week, and now she's back to being sort of sassy, jerky season 1 Mariner, and similarly Boimler, who we think should be over, like, his, super, zeroed in on the chair, instantly goes to that. Like that's the very first thing he does. And I almost feel like you could put this earlier in the season, it would work better. If you put it like before the girls' trip in, or sort of those things. So yeah, it wasn't a bad episode, just like contextually it felt very weirdly placed for me.
It does continue the trend of we're mixing up the dynamics because we get like a Mariner Rutherford moment in their B plot. Well, they're probably the A plot this episode. Right. I don't know. I'm not in a writer's room for a reason, and I think it's revealing itself. But like that was something that I did enjoy, and that's like in comparison to the last 2 episodes where we've seen other sort of mix-ups. I think that's where this episode shines.
So many thoughts about this episode, but I wonder how we all feel about, and I know that the Vice Admiral is going to have some stuff to say about this. How do we feel about the idea that Lower Decks is fully committed to the Pac-Lads being the prime adversary? Like I think about TNG taking their time to find it. You know, they introduced the Ferengi right away, and that was just kind of a dud until they figured out how to reinvent the Ferengi later on and then really commit to it in DS9. Obviously, the Borg came along, and we then had the one that stuck, that fit for TNG. And here's Lower Decks is going like, oh, they did this one episode. What could we do if we just committed to the dumbest possible adversary on our show? Do you feel like this is the way to? Did you expect this much Pac-led action, or I mean, give me your feelings on that.
I will say at the end of season 1, I was hoping we'd get more because they just are so funny. Every ship is the Enterprise. Every girl captain is Captain Janeway. Like their like inability to process more than like 2 brain cells. It's highly entertaining. I mean, I think you said it, John. It's about committing to the bit, and Lower Decks was like they went all in on it. And once you go in on it, it's like, yeah, they believe in it, so you believe in it, kind of thing. No, I love the Pac-Lads. They're very funny. I enjoy them a lot.
Well, and I think they figure out a way to make the dumbest possible adversary actually threatening. You know, because it's kind of like the Borg. When you look at the Borg as not having really a moral stake or any ethical qualms about anything, they're simply following their programming, and it isn't about their targets being ideologically opposed. Or it's just about we want what you have. we're going to take your technology and your individuality, your distinctiveness, and make it part of us because that makes us stronger. That's what the Pac-Lids are. They're just slower, and somehow Lower Decks cracked that nut and figured out how to take this, what would have been a footnote in Star Trek history, and turn them into something really interesting and genuinely worrisome, to the 24th century.
I'm trying to imagine if I think that Mike McMahon entered the room saying it will be the Pac-Lids, because I could absolutely believe that as a reality. Or if, I'm sure this happens when you work on a massive franchise, if they tried for the Borg and the Gorn and and then they heard from on high, like, oh, well, Picard is doing this and this show's doing this. And then eventually it was like, well, who can we use? And then when the Pac-Lids appeared on there, it was like, oh, we got to do the Pac-Lids.
That's why not? Well, that would be a good question for Mike when we have him back. Yes, exactly. By the way, I don't want to throw you too far off track because, Ashley, I know that you have your feelings about this. And Chris, you may have your feelings about this too. But Carlos says currently, I'm shipping, and he's throwing out a couple of combo names for us. He goes, I'm shipping Boindy or Tendler.
Oh, no, how dare my heart.
Oh, is that going to root?
I will
go
say,
ahead,
I don't
please.
know if I think that I want that, but I do definitely thought I picked up a vibe in that cafeteria scene, like when Tendi like de-hulks, like the way she says "Thank you, Boimler." I was like, that's an interesting inflection, Noelle. Why'd you do that?
Oh, I agree. It feels like pillow talk. Even the way that they're posed in the animation, it feels very intimate.
Well, it is very romantic, laying on a big pool of shrimp, granola, chocolate, rice, pizza, collard greens, whatever.
It's so gross. One of my notes just says chocolate sundae hot is so gross. Like I couldn't with the hot food. It was so gross.
Wait. My favorite detail in that was a birthday cake with lit candles. Temperature variable.
Temperature. Yeah,
like what?
yeah.
How? What part is the varying temperatures? That's yeah. Earl, of course, chiming in. Earl asks, but not a big pile of street corn. So weird.
No banana hot.
No. Why have we not gone back to that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's. It seems like the replicator would have come up with that already on its own. Very disappointing. Chris, any other thoughts tonight?
No, I think that's about it. Yeah, this was good. We'll see. I still think there's going to be like a big Mariner Boimler, if not fight, but like emotional catharsis scene somewhere in our last four. I think we're building to that. Yeah, maybe Tandy and Boimler are a thing now. I don't know. We'll see. But no, I've been enjoying this season so far. Always glad to have more Lower Decks, and it's been fun hanging out all this time.
Agreed. All right. Thanks, Chris. Good to talk to you, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye, Chris.
Bye. Hey, let us not skip a beat. Let us go right over to the next caller on the line, and that is Mike, Captain Mike. Welcome to the show.
Captain Riker, good to see you. Captain Janeway, good to see you as well.
That's the only reason I grew this beard. That's
yeah, and I don't want to compromise Becky and Boyms or Beckward because we all like those, but they were definitely vibing with Tendi and Boimler there at the end. I could see that. And Ashley, you pointed out the pose, and I thought there was definitely kind of had something. And chocolate sundae hot. I laughed out loud. That was the end of it.
Oh, gross. Maybe this is like the sexy complication before Tendi and Rutherford can get married, like we know they're destined to.
Yeah.
That's okay. All right, you're going that direction. We have 7 seasons
of this show. I've already spoken into the universe, so there's time. It took Riker and Troy a long time to work that Inzadi stuff out.
You have to have it. Good.
Something also that makes Insurrection my favorite next gen movie, or top 2 anyway.
Nice,
top 2.
nice.
Hot take. So what I wanted to get at a little bit was just a little bit about, and usually I just kind of get on here and goof around, and I wanted to cover 2 kind of serious topics. One, Ashley, I wanted to thank you last week for pointing out something that I said, and I actually did reflect on that a lot during this week, because if you don't know you're doing something, you can't fix it. And I'll just leave it alone, but you pointed out that I had a way of speaking when I was chatting with Norm a little bit, and I wanted to work on that a little bit. So thank you. A little bit of opportunity for personal growth for me. Also, speaking of personal growth, just the individual, the difference between individual leadership and personal leadership, and training yourself to become a captain or just acting like a captain. And I think that really was the crux of this this episode for me. With my profession and a project I've been working on for many, many months now, that's kind of coming to a crescendo. But unless you know your stuff, can do your job, can do it well, have the credibility of your peers, look out for one another, take care of each other, then you're not going to be able to lead other people. And just being able to make a good speech or look good, have a good hair day, and wear the uniform right is not going to be able to make you a good captain. And that was really what I wanted to chat about, just a little bit about this episode, because it was such a kind of a strong message there with the red shirts. And
Mike,
and what they were trying to do.
It is like you have been reading my notes, because I literally wrote down as one of my notes the difference between acting like a captain and being a captain. And one of Casey's lines that I had to quote was, "This isn't a friendship, it's a starship." And which is just so good and so right for that character. But it really says something about the iconic captains of Star Trek that we've followed, whether it's Kirk or Pike or Janeway or Picard or whomever. Archer,
not the
certainly.
Cisco erasure. It's the Cisco erasure for me.
Okay. So, but I look at that and I go, yeah, there has to be the correct balance between the logical job of leadership, but also the care and empathy and compassion for the people that you are leading. Otherwise, what is the point of being there? What is the point of even being in that chair or aspiring to that position? And again, Lower Decks just so beautifully is able to boil down a concept like that into a handful of scenes with a handful of lines, and you get it. You get it on this emotional level to see what's happening between just acting the part and actually caring about the part, caring about the role.
I find like bringing this up a piece of like verisimilitude, because you came in here and your first statement brought a lot of humility, which is something that a great leader really needs. And it's something that Boimler has to learn in order to help Tendi in this episode. And then you come in with this incredible thesis on the morals, meanings, messages of the episode. So I applaud you for living what you're preaching right now.
Well, thank you very much. I'm quite flattered by that. And thank you. And I just, I know you got a long list of people, you got a lot of things to talk about, but just words matter. And when Boimler was giving his version of the captain's speech, he said, it's been an honor to serve as your captain. And that's the thing, is that when you're a leader, you have to remember that you're serving the people that are in your charge to do what's best for everybody, and not what's best for yourself. So thanks for giving me a chance to call in. You guys are the best. I'm having a bunch of fun. And I don't know who said it. I'm going to give Alan credit, because he's going to be on here sometime tonight. But with that Borg, connection to the Packlet, he said, somebody said on Discord, on the patrons mission log Discord, which is fun and you should join, by the way.
Thank you.
He said, we want to add your stuff to our stuff.
Also a great
was that you, Vice
line,
Admiral?
I'm not going to lie.
Okay, I'll make way for the next caller, and we will give credit where credit is due. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Take care. Thank you so much. And hey, you know what? We'll do this a couple of minutes early. It's not quite the bottom of the hour, but we'll do this right before we welcome on the Vice Admiral, and then Alan, and then John Arminio, because Mike said it so well. Discord for our Patreon followers is so much fun. And I said this to Norman, I've said it on air, and I've said it to Norman privately. When I look at all the things that I do on the internet, when I look at the social media that I follow, that I have to participate in as maybe a part of the show, there's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's all these other places. I have more fun and get more positivity out of our Discord than anywhere else. It is such a great group of people. There are so many conversations happening that go beyond Star Trek. There's other science fiction. There's real science. There's food and drink, because I exist. There is so much happening in our Discord that I loved. Usually the last thing I do before I go to bed at night is read Discord, because it just puts a smile on my face. So how can you be a part of it? You can be a part of it for as little as $1 a month, joining us over at patreon.com/missionlog. there are so many other benefits as well. There's Mission Log swag. There's early access to our shows. There's the unedited shows. There's the After Dark discussion each week about the current episode of Mission Log. But more than anything, it is a group of friends. And we are having the time of our lives, chatting with each other, checking in with each other, and having fantastic conversations. Join us there, patreon.com/missionlog. Thank you for letting me be crassly commercial in the middle of this fun show. And now we'll get back to our Trek talk. So happy to welcome the man who taught me about the Planet of Hats. It's the Vice Admiral. Welcome to the show, Vice Admiral. How are you tonight?
Well, so far so good. It's good to see you both. Hope you've been having fun.
Good to see you.
I love your shirt. You're looking very, very fetching tonight.
Why, thank you. Yeah, this is one of my uniform ones. I can't really see my rank and stuff here, but if I stand up, you can get my insignia.
That's so cool.
Nice. Oh, very cool. Nice.
I have one olive as opposed to Fleet Admiral Roddenberry, of course, who has no olives.
Yes. Fleet Admiral Roddenberry. That's, I dare not call him that in real life, but yes.
So,
yeah. All right.
Mike brought up the wonderful thing about the leadership qualities that were brought on display here with the red shirts. But I have to also ask, one thing I thought there might be a little hint of in here, as the show does enjoy poking at, I'm not going to say poking fun all the time, just poking at some of the things that happen in the sci-fi community. And I'm thinking, wow, those guys really were gatekeepers, weren't they?
Okay. That is a good point. Expound on that a little, if you would, please.
Well,
yes.
They immediately take Boimler out from the group that he has been comfortable with and decide that, hey, if he wants to be a part of this group, he has to pretend they don't exist. He has to do things the way they want. They have to convince him that he's got to follow certain rules and like certain things and not like certain others. Otherwise, he's just useless to them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think Lower Decks has done a really good job of very subtly working in, well, certainly references to fandom and the various trappings of that. But this was, I felt it was a little cult-like, obviously saying you have to disconnect from your old friends, from this other life that you think you have. But what I thought was very interesting was, you put it so well, the gatekeeping of, you have to look like this, you have to act like this. This is the only real way to become a captain. Otherwise, you'll just be stuck here. Well, stuck there, first of all, is incorrect. And second of all, those are the people, as we showed by the end of the episode, those are the people who are doing the job, not just talking about the job. So it was a little bit of a celebration of kind of the workers of all stripes, not just the middle and upper management,
Exactly. And Boimler did show great leadership qualities when he needed to. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Absolutely.
I think we can all comfort ourselves by knowing that as red shirts, they're not long for this world. But as a fan of Jyn the Andorian, I'm a little sad to think that she's going to explode soon.
And the Kazin doing the telepath pose from TAS was amazing, wasn't it?
Just and hearing the spine crack. Yeah. Oh my God.
So much gross stuff in this episode.
Yeah.
Okay, but the other three, Casey went on to have his humiliation on the bridge, but the other three were turned around suddenly. They thought Boimler was cool. They realized apparently the error of Casey's ways. So maybe there is some hope and some redemption for them, that they won't follow this gatekeeper, holier than thou path.
Exactly.
But
the other thing, of course, John, as we talked about on the Discord, is the Planet of Hats trope that they literally brought out and said, look, it's a planet of hats.
You blew my mind, because in Mission Log Past, we have talked about
The monocultures.
Monocultures, and I've always heard it as that way. I'd never heard of the trope of the Planet of Hats. Please, well, Ashley, is this something that you're familiar with?
I am not, so please enlighten me.
Oh, okay.
It's basically the same sort of thing where a genre show, but specifically science fiction shows, will, in order to, keep things simple, both from the production perspective and from the, audience perspective, everybody has a certain trait, whether it be they all they're all artists, or they're all warriors, or they're all wearing hats, or even a certain type of hat, or they all, something that identifies them uniquely, even if they mostly look human, so that the audience can look at them and say, oh, look, we know who that is the minute we see them. And
I'm just thinking about Stargate with the Jaffa and the foreheads.
Exactly the sort of thing I'm talking about. Yeah, all Jaffa, with the exception of a handful, all have the mark of their gold, right? So yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a little simplified because they're also all Jaffa, and they all also look a certain way as well. But yes, you're absolutely correct.
But it's and in the right hands, it can work. I mean, clearly we've had 50 plus years of Star Trek where you're using a shorthand, particularly when Star Trek is more episodic, to say, these are the people of this planet. This typifies this planet. We turn that back on Earth and we look at ourselves and go, how could you sum up humanity in just a handful of traits, much less a single trait that you could say that, that defines what humans.
Phones. It would be the planet of phones.
Planet of phones. There you go.
Correct.
That's correct. Yeah, but then you have factions, and you have iPhone and Android factions, and you have flip phone factions, and then you have the non-phone. So it can work, and obviously it worked early on when you say, okay, Vulcans are logical, and Klingons are this, and Romulans are this. And it took years and years and years of welcoming these characters back to be able to give them a little bit more color. And as we would say on Mission Log, well, where are the artists? Where are the priests? Where are the day laborers? The people who, from the Klingon world do everything but be warriors all day long. Somebody has to go out and get the guy.
Somebody's cleaning their airlocks.
Exactly. Yes. So, and you still wonder how could a Pac-led planet actually evolve? How could they actually get to the point?
I guess.
I have a thought about that, John.
Okay, because I'll pose it to both of you. Is this a mirror universe situation where if your development of your society is through killing the person who is next highest in rank, do you actually get to evolve and succeed as a society that way? It seems like you would be stuck a long time ago. So school me about Pac-Leds.
You used the word evolve, John. So here's what I was thinking. Who's had one of the biggest hats we've ever seen in Star Trek?
In Star Trek, I was thinking about Alistair Crowley.
Kai Wynn?
No, I was thinking Reginald Barkley in the episode The Degree.
That is a very big hat.
So what if the Pac-Leds, when they still had ships that were pretty basic, ran across that same probe, and one of them is sitting in a giant Barkley chair controlling everything from the back?
Oh, you mean in his Barkley lounger?
Yes.
Yeah. But
he's gotten super smart. Yeah. I mean, comparatively, not super smart like Barkley, but smarter than other Pac-Led.
Yes.
It's such a shame for everyone who can't see the crew that's on video right now, and the applause that is going on by all of our sweet friends is so gratifying.
It's so great. See, that's what people are missing when they're not here in the green room with us. Yeah. It's its own little party. That is quite possible. And you do wonder, is it just something built into the Pac-Leds where they could attain technology, they can attain a certain level of intellectual development, artificial or otherwise, but they still keep misusing it. It still misfires every time, which again, I would say is a pretty okay reflection of humanity, in that all aliens are humans in Star Trek when it comes down to it. So, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I have to wonder.
What do you think, Ashley?
It's
who's in
so
charge?
tough because I want to imagine that this is a world where instead of, we know that on our planet, right, it's quote, survival of the fittest, end quote, that I want to believe that it's the opposite on Pac-Led planet. But that doesn't make sense because they have beat the Fermi paradox and they have achieved interstellar travel, which requires a level of intellectualism and technology and societal comprehension that we don't have right now.
Or somebody landed there in the first place and they took their ship.
Right. So my next theory is that they must be parasitic, or they came upon a planet that maybe suffered, a plague.
The main antagonist race from Footfall, who basically had alien tech left on their planet and
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
headcanon accepted.
Yeah, survival of the fittest just means survival of that which is best suited to survive. Not best, not smartest, not most able, whatever, just able to survive whatever the environment throws at them. So in their case, I guess their slowness was an adaptive ability that helped them out. And they maybe got lucky a few times and stole some good technology.
They're the tortoise in the hare metaphor.
Oh, 100%.
Well, yeah, something on their planet gave them the selection pressure that being a bit dumb is okay.
Yeah, right. right. Oh, man. Vice Admiral, thank you so much for dropping in with some knowledge on the planet of hats. I really appreciate that. It will change my outlook from now on. Any other parting thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, but it's great to see you guys, and I'm hoping that I get to see you in person at some point sooner than later.
That would be lovely indeed. Yes. Take care. Have a great night.
You too, both of you. Take care.
Bye.
All right. Waiting over here, as always, from the lower decks, we have our old friend Alan, the king of the Riker meme. Welcome back to the show, Alan.
Hey.
How are you
doing? Good to see you guys again. John, Ashley, it's great to be here. I feel like the conversation has been a little bit too on point, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to step in, and I'm going to have to assert dominance over this podcast.
He's got a bigger hat.
I have the biggest hat today.
He is Emperor host.
Yes.
This is my podcast now.
Watch your back, man, because you never know who's going to be behind you with a bigger hat. But yeah. No, by the way, somebody, Cherie, our old friend Cherie here in the chat says, maybe the Packleds are the reason for the Prime Directive. Someone helped them long ago, and this is the result.
Ooh, that's
Cherie,
good.
Very good. I like that a lot. So, and Dave says, perhaps they had very intelligent scientists. They all got killed off and are just coasting with centuries of old tech. Could very well be the case. So, yeah,
a good Krypton vibes. We're not listening to our scientists.
It could be. Yeah. So, Alan, other than usurping your hosts, what else do you have to share with us tonight about Lower Decks?
Well, another enjoyable episode. I think I'm kind of in the same lane as you guys, and is that it may not have been sort of like, an all-time great Lower Decks. It definitely was good, had a lot of fun jokes, had a lot of great moments. Who would have thought that, it would end with prank calling Armus? That is an all-time great bit. And, it just, who wouldn't want to prank call that guy?
Sure.
Given the opportunity.
But did you feel a little sorry for him at the end? I mean, he's full of anger, but then they pissed him off, and then he just devolves a little puddle of goo. He can't even take it anymore.
Honestly, though, he looks better here than he's ever looked.
That's very true.
He looked the least like my pile of glad bags. In form.
There's a little sparkle to him. He's been. Maybe he's been working out, no. But
yeah, nice. Hey, let me ask you both a question. You're on the Cerritos. You know that down the hall there is the Starfleet gift shop. You know that down the hall again there is the high security juice bar. First of all, I want to know what a high security juice bar is. Second of all, I want to know what we're missing. I want to know what we're missing beyond that is to be revealed yet in a future episode of Lower Decks beyond the gift shop and the high security juice bar. I'm thinking there's got to be a yoga studio. There's got to be, I don't know, Starfleet massage. Like it seems like a well-equipped ship.
A couture replicator.
Yeah.
Ooh, couture replicator.
Bespoke clothing.
Oh, nice. Well, you think that's where they got Boimler's new cut?
Okay, but the callback to the TNG shoulder pads, though, was so funny. It was so good.
I did appreciate that quite a bit. And we've, yourself, Ashley, me, many of our listeners maybe have spent some time in a black box theater with folding chairs and harsh lighting. So
Chris was there with me a couple weeks
ago. Yeah, maybe felt a little close to home. I appreciate that exists.
Every improv theater in LA.
Yes, love that.
Oh yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's a shame they didn't get to the barber shop. I'm sure there's a Bolian on staff. Maybe the gift shop was just that Replimat place that they went shopping for Miles and Keiko gifts that one time.
For the gifts, yeah, that
on
could
the
be
Enterprise.
It.
I think
that could be it.
Yeah, it's like just take him there. Make him a shirt. Say it's the gift shop. It's all good. High security juice bar. Maybe that's just like, the really exotic fruits, like,
Do you think those are only on the California class as well?
Maybe, yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like the New York class ships have a high security pizzeria?
Sure. They might have a high security falafel. Yeah.
They get the good water on the New York ships. That's how they make that stuff.
Yes. Nice. I love it. What else? What else you got for us, Alan? Because I do, by the way, I think there is, as reprehensible as Ensign Casey is, I will say that I had to write down at least another one of his lines because it was so insightful, so thoughtful, and you should all carry this with you wherever you go. The bridge is wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
that was a great line.
That was. You should just always think of it that way.
Yes. He's a walking quote a day calendar. of insightful Starfleet stuff. It did feel like, it was good that in the end, Mighty Casey struck out. He got his comeuppance at the end. I thought that was, well earned. Another great Shax line, just he's there for 2 seconds and get out of my chair.
Yeah.
I'm also pretty sure that he was the Gladbags at the end as well. I'm pretty sure that was also Fred.
You think he was doing Armus? You think that was Fred? Oh, okay.
That's theory.
Pin that one. Another good question, I think.
Sounds, yes. It sounds like a little bit of his vocal performance there.
Yeah.
I guess I do have one semi-serious thing to touch on too, much like Captain Mike and some of our other callers, is that we did get a lot of time with the Pakleds, and I'm just going to throw this out there. I know it's a comedy show. I know that they're typically thought of as a comedy race, but does it get to a point where it stops being these guys are stupid and it gets to be something else? And I hope that they thread the needle there a little bit, because it would be unfortunate if it started to become a parody of mental challenges or anything like that, because I mean, the idea, at least that I remember from the original episode, was that yes, these guys appear stupid and they appear helpless and that they don't know what they're doing, but in actuality they're just very unsophisticated with the way that they talk, but they're very cunning and they've got, all of these other attributes at play. Whereas, definitely the stupidity has been played up for laughs in this show, and good for them because they're great jokes. When you guys talked a couple weeks ago about them taking the buzzsaw and just slamming it into the door.
I love it. Yes.
That is a top flight joke.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure, hopefully, that they sort of keep it pitched where it's at right now, because anymore, and it could, I've seen some postings questioning this in various places that discuss the show, and I'm like, is that really what's happening here, or how are we feeling about this, I guess?
I think that's a very fair question, and it's always tough when you present a character who there could be a shorthand for what we might recognize as a handicap, whether that's a mental handicap or a physical handicap. I think we've seen that Star Trek in general and these writers aren't going to do that. It's certainly intentionally, which doesn't mean that line won't get crossed. But I will say there are 4 episodes left. And I hope, like you, Alan, that we get like a big payoff with the Packlids. I hope we get a space battle with them. I know it can, you also brought up, like, is this too much? Are we wringing the joke dry? And maybe a turn where they are the big scary bad guys is just what we need. I would love to see it, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I do appreciate that question because I think it's an important one to have. And the more I watch of the Packlids, I wonder, like, are we skirting into some sort of uncomfortable territory with them in their portrayal? And then I remind myself, like, well, they actually are a threat. They actually are dangerous. Yeah. And they were cunning. They did have a plan here, and they apparently have more plans. They're very poor at connecting the dots. And it's just sort of like this unfiltered part where you announce, basically, I'm a spy. I'm here to get the information. But the plan existed before that. And enough of them got together and said, you will pretend to ask for asylum. You'll go to the ship. You'll get information. We'll be here doing this. So there is something that is quite thoughtful about them. And it could simply be an evolutionary trait where it's like, okay, but to protect ourselves, we come across as not all that bright. So I agree, you know, because there is so little about the Packlids other than that one episode of Next Gen and what we've gotten of them on Lower Decks, they could really take them anywhere. And we could actually get a full backstory on why the Packlids are what they are. Or they may just leave it where they are and say, oh, no, they actually are truly frightening, you know, if you really think about it. So I'll be curious to see. But I think that is a very legitimate question, Alan. I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah. I'm going to turn the conversation real quick just because there's some great comments in the chat that I don't want to miss. Where we're talking about what else exists on the Cerritos. First of all, Chris Riker says Armus needs to be drilled and sold at the pumps. John Cooley says, I want access to the gift shop. Carlos says they do yoga in the halls like on TNG. So no need for a yoga studio. Just do it in the hall like they did on TNG. We have to see Cetacean Ops. Let's see here. And then, Deck 6 Build-A-Bear. So we need that. We also need a high security taco stand. And and John Cooley says, Black Box shout out to the USS McKinley and Star Trek The Improvised Generation. Definitely a big shout out to them and our friends from that show. So when Paul says high test Armus, that's what you'll be coming at the station very soon. So yes. Alan, we are going to run a little bit short tonight, so I will say goodbye, and we can bring on our next caller. So hope you have a great night. Thank you, and we will see you hopefully soon.
Yeah, see you next time, guys.
Bye.
Cheers. Take care. And rounding out the show tonight, always glad to have him back. It is our friend John Arminio. Welcome to the show. How are you tonight?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing okay. Doing all right. I can't wait for you to bring it home for us and share your insights into this week's Lower Decks.
Well, I guess piggybacking off of what Alan said, I think one of the great things about Star Trek is that it gives us a way to look at different kinds of intelligences. So, like, I was just thinking about that one non-corporeal intelligence from TNG that referred to us as ugly bags of mostly water.
Not wrong.
And and it couldn't understand what death is, so it had to like kill humans to see what that was like. So in a way, it's incredibly ignorant of so much of what life is in the universe, but in other ways it far surpasses our own intelligence. And so I think it'd be very, very interesting if Lower Decks could explore the ways Packlids are maybe more advanced intellectually than other species that we've seen. Like if they really want to drill into Packlid culture in a certain way.
Maybe their strength, maybe they're really good at the long game.
Yes.
They just keep fumbling at the short game. You know, that really could be part of it.
Yeah.
But they're also good as a kind of a collective, right? Like they seem very community based. They're very interested in things that affect them as a whole. They're not as individualistic as humans.
But they also kill each other to get ahead.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, well, so does a fish.
so do we.
Yeah, John, throw stones.
like not in this room, okay, but just in general. Yeah. No, that's such a good point, and it does perfectly dovetail with what Alan was saying, and there probably is so much more to be revealed about them. And like Ashley, I would love to be a fly on the wall in the writers' room to figure out like how they game this out. Where do we actually, if we're going to commit to the Pakleds, where do we actually go with them? And if Lower Deck showed us anything, in 10 episodes last season, they did so much and they led us along with all this great comedy. And then they landed one of the strongest finales, I think, of any Star Trek for the end of their first season. I have high hopes. I don't want to be let down. I have high hopes here that for the end of this season, there will be something just as impactful and thought-provoking as they did last.
And just one thing about the cadre of red shirts.
Yes.
It seemed like it was a bunch of people who watched the TNG episode Tapestry and got the wrong message. I just need to be aggressive and grab the bull by the horns and tell Starfleet what I want, and then I'll get it.
Yeah,
whereas
right.
It's actually, no, you need to commit to being a leader and be humble and while being able to take action when action is required. And it's leadership. Part of it is knowing when you need to take action, but also knowing when you need to maybe ask for help or, let Mariner kick ass while you make a speech or something.
Right. Well, yeah. And you see Boimler going into where it was dangerous and actually doing the job, as opposed to a captain sitting in a chair saying, no, somebody else go do the dangerous thing. Yeah, tactically that can make sense, but the impetus is to actually go help your fellow crewmate. And that's exactly what he did without even having to think about it. It's like, no, this is what you do. You go take action when somebody needs help.
Yeah, leading from the front versus leading from the back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's also why in the military, why ensigns and junior lieutenants aren't put in leadership command roles where they're giving orders to 10-year veteran enlisted personnel.
Right.
Because they can come off like that.
Exactly.
Don't tell that to the 09 movie.
Well, yeah, that's a whole other thing. We'll get to that in a few years on Mission Log. Welcome back when we get there.
I can't wait.
Listen, we are going to run just a little bit short tonight because Ashley has a show and we don't want you to be late for that.
Sorry.
So yeah. So anybody in the LA area, look up Ashley and go to the show. I do want to throw out one little last quick observation here that I love, and I hope that you all loved it as much as I did. Kayshawn just being back and just being part of the crew and great. And I love the blend of what do we call their language even? I can't remember, I want to call it Dharmakese, but that's not right. But the blend of their language with standard. So he just casually leans over to Ransom and say, "You getting Basminti when he pulled back the veil vibes?" That was so perfect. And I cannot wait to see more of him because anything he slips in, you immediately get it, even if it makes no sense. So love that. Yeah. Any other last observations here before we wrap it up?
Just that, more credit to the voice cast for being able to communicate by context clues and voice intonation what he's talking about. So just 10 out of 10 on with everybody who's on the cast in that show. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Alan, he brought it home for me. Tamarian. I will try not to forget that. Yes, that is the language, not Dharmakese. That was just dumb. We can edit that out later.
But you see, Ashley, we know what you were talking about.
See, you knew. Yeah, I gave you language, like when Darmok said the thing. Yeah. Ashley, any last thoughts, comments before we say goodnight and send you off to your show?
I love you all. Thank you for joining me. And didn't Boimler have a nice speech? I liked it.
Yes, indeed. All right, thank you, everybody. Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment, executive producer Rod Roddenberry. Technical production on Mission Log Live by the incalculable Earl Green. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from Roddenberry Podcasts. If you'd like to support Mission Log directly, give us a look at patreon.com/missionlog. Thank you to everyone who joined us live or later. Stay safe, stay healthy. We look forward to talking with you next week.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.